The room was quiet except for the sound of the ticking clock on the wall. You were lying on your bed, staring at your phone, which had been your focus for the past hour. What happened to this man? Is he that busy that he can't pick up my calls? You muttered to yourself, frustration evident in your voice. You called Jungkook 20 times by now, but each time the call went straight to voicemail. You couldn't help but feel a mix of worry and guilt creeping into your heart. You sighed deeply, trying to push away the negative thoughts that were scaring you. Maybe he is angry at me, you whispered. It was my mistake. I should not have gone to that party without telling him. I need to do something to make it up to him. You decided, your voice filled confidence, but how could you apologize if he wasn't answering your calls? In a last-ditch effort, you decided to call John, Jungkook's right-hand man. He was always with Jungkook, and if anyone knew where he was, it would be him. You quickly dialed John's number and waited, hoping he would pick up, but instead of the ringing tone, you were met with a robotic voice informing you that the phone was switched off. Ah, such a drinkhead. He must have drunk himself silly and fallen somewhere on the footpath. You scowled in frustration. The thought of John passed out drunk somewhere made you chuckle, but the laughter quickly faded as the reality of your situation set in. You glanced at the clock, it was already past midnight. Normally, you wouldn't be able to sleep without talking to Jungkook, but tonight the silence was unbearable. You sighed and lay back on your bed, staring up at the ceiling. Your mind wandered back to the day you met Jungkook. It had been in a bar where you worked as a waitress. The night someone had tried to misbehave with you, but you had defended yourself and fought back, not letting the situation get out of hand. Jungkook had been there watching from a distance. He had been impressed by your bravery, and from that moment, he had made it his mission to protect you. Over time, his protection has turned into love, and you found yourself falling for him too, despite knowing about his mafia world he lived in. You grabbed your phone again, your fingers hovering over Jungkook's contact. You wanted to call him one more time, but you were scared of the possibility that might not answer again. Instead, you typed out a quick text. I'm sorry, Jungkook, I didn't mean to upset you. Please call me when you can. I miss you. You stared at the message for a few moments before hitting send button. You placed your phone on the nightstand, trying to fight back the tears that were threatening to spill over, but it was no use. The worry, guilt, and fear were too much to bear. That night you could not sleep, tossed and turned on the bed, unable to find peace. The more you thought about it, the more you realized that you should have just told him about the party. Finally, it was morning, and you got off the bed quickly. I need to see him, you whispered to yourself. I need to apologize in person. You stood in front of the mirror, carefully adjusting the dress. Jungkook loved it so much. It was a soft, flowing fabric in a shade of deep red that he once said made you look breathtaking. It's all done, Jungkook baby. You whispered to your reflection, a determined look in your eyes. I'm coming. You gave your hair one last adjustment, making sure every strand was in place. You wanted to look flawless to show him what he was missing out on. Maybe then he would realize how much he had hurt you by not answering your calls. Grabbing your purse, you came out of your house, closing the door behind you, and took a cab to go to his address, which once he gave his visiting card. The cab ride felt longer than it was, each passing moment adding to the curiosity building inside you. Finally, the car slowed down and the driver announced that you had arrived. You looked out the window and gasped. You stood in front of a massive mansion, its grandeur almost overwhelming. The tall gates, intricate designs, and perfectly manicured gardens screamed wealth and power. You doubted, checked the address Jungkook had given you just to be sure. This is house? You whispered to yourself, awestruck by the huge size of it. You paid your driver and stepped out of the cab, taking a moment to observe the sight before you. It was far from the small apartment you had imagined. You knew Jungkook was wealthy, but seeing his home in person was something else entirely. Taking a deep breath, you walked up the driveway, your heels clicking softly against the stone path. As you approached the main entrance, you noticed something odd. There was no security, the mansion gate was wide open, and no one was stood at the front door. That's strange. You thought, your brows furrowing in confusion. Where is everyone? You came inside as the door was open. Hello, you called out softly, your voice echoing through the empty space. Just then two guards who were in black suit came downstairs. Hey, what are you doing here? One of them barked. His tone was sharpened and friendly. Who let you in? You snapped out of your daze, turning to face them. I'm Vine, you said, your voice trembling slightly. I want to meet Jungkook. Your boss knows me. But instead of acknowledging your words, the guards exchanged a glance and said, Don't waste our time, girl. The guard said, his voice was like warning, Leave now, or you will face the consequences. You clenched your fist, trying to keep your emotions in check. How dare you warn me like this? Do you even know who you are talking to? I'm your boss's girlfriend. The guards looked at you from head to toe, their eyes filled with disbelief, and then to your horror, they burst out laughing. Are you serious? One of them chuckled, shaking his head, which made you get angry. You, the boss's girlfriend, don't make us laugh. The other guard smirked and pointed upstairs. There she is. She is our boss's girlfriend, he said to break your heart. You followed his gaze and felt your heart shatter as Jungkook was with women and you can see through the wide window. You stood frozen as your eyes locked on the sight of Jungkook with the women. She was beautiful, standing really with long flowing hair and a perfect smile that made your heart sing. Jungkook and that woman were hugging and he looked genuinely happy. Tears began to well up in your eyes, blurring your vision as you thought something bad was going to happen with you. Don't go around making jokes like this, one of the guards mocked. You might fool someone else but not us. Look at yourself. Do you really think you stand a chance against her? Their words were like daggers, each one piercing deeper into your heart. The humiliation, the betrayal, it was all too much. Without another word, you turned on your heels and left, unable to bear the sight of them laughing at you. As you rushed out of the mansion, tears streamed down your face, hot and relentless. You didn't even bother to call a cab this time. You just walked, your feet carrying you aimlessly through the streets, your mind replaying the scene over and over again. Boss, here is your phone, he said, handing it over to Jungkook. It took 24 hours to find it, but we finally tracked it down. Jungkook's eyes lit up the moment he saw the phone. He quickly took it from John, inspecting it closely to make sure there was no scratches or damage. His fingers traced the edge of the device with care, his expression one of intense focus. Actually, Jungkook was on a mission for the last 3 days. There he lost his phone and he found it once he returned home. His right hand John and few bodyguards searched for it. Watching this, John couldn't help but ask, What's so special about this phone, boss? You could just buy a new one if it's lost, right? Jungkook glanced up at him, a small smile playing on his lips. It's not just any phone, John. This phone is special. It has my heart. Before John could ask more, a soft, feminine voice interrupted him. Don't tell me it's from your girlfriend, she said, stepping closer. She had been standing nearby, observing Jungkook with keen interest. Then he turned to face her, his smile widening slightly. Nice guess, he replied, giving her a playful wink. With that, Jungkook walked away, heading towards a more alone space of the mansion. He needed some time alone to speak to someone. As he disappeared around the corner, Nancy's face fell. The smile she had been wearing faded, replaced by a look of. She turned to John, hoping for some clarity. Is it true? She asked, her voice laced with unease. Is that phone really from his girlfriend? John, sensing the tension in her voice, shrugged simply. I don't know, Nancy. The boss doesn't talk much about his personal life with me. With that, he walked away, leaving Nancy standing there, unsatisfied with his answer. If he reveals everything about Jungkook, then how could be in a position of right hand to him? He needed this loyalty towards his boss. As John's footsteps faded, Nancy's mind began to race. She wasn't convinced by his casual response. There had to be more to the story, and Jungkook's word echoed in her head. It has my heart. Her thoughts revealed as she tried to piece together what she had just witnessed. The way Jungkook had smiled when he mentioned his girlfriend, there was something about it that unsettled her. It wasn't just a simple relationship. Nancy frowned, her hands clenching at her sides. She had been close to Jungkook for many years, and she couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. She had always admired him, his power, his charisma, the way he commanded respect from everyone. But now his attention was shifting to someone instead of her who is madly in love with him. She was feeling betrayal as another woman occupying the place in his heart. I need to find out who this girl is, she muttered to herself. She wasn't going to let someone else steal Jungkook away from her so easily. Jungkook stood on the balcony, the cool breeze brushing against his face as he finally turned his attention to his phone. His eyes widened in surprise when he saw the screen. 20 plus missed calls, all from you. What happened to this girl? He muttered to himself, his heart racing a bit faster. Why did she call me so many times? As he thought about it, a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. Maybe she thought I was angry at her for going out alone. Such a crazy girl. He chuckled to himself, amused by the idea. Without wasting another moment, he quickly dialed your number. The phone rang, but to his shock, you cut the call. She cut the call. He was taken aback, staring at the screen as if it could explain what just happened. He immediately dialed again, convinced that it must have been a mistake, but once again, you cut the call. His confusion deepened and worry started to creep in. What's going on? Why is she cutting my calls? What happened to her? Jungkook's mind raced with possibilities, but nothing made sense. Today's Sunday, she doesn't have work, so what could be the reason? He wondered out loud, pacing back and forth on the balcony. As he stood there lost in thought, Nancy approached him from behind. Jungkook, she called softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. I just go back after so many days. How about we go on a small trip, just the two of us? Jungkook barely resisted her words, his mind still on you. He instinctively shrugged off her hand. No, Nancy, he said firmly. I have something important to take care of it. Without waiting for a response, he turned and hurriedly walked away, his mind set on finding out what was wrong. He didn't even glance back at Nancy as he headed straight for the stairs, his thoughts only on you. Nancy stood there watching him leave, her face twisting in anger. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her palms as she boiled with frustration. What's so important that you would ignore me like this? She whispered to herself, her eyes narrowing as she watched him disappear out of her sight. Jungkook came to his car and was just about to open his door when he overheard his guards laughing nearby. Their voices carried easily to him in the silence of the morning. It was a big joke, huh? She actually said she is our boss's girlfriend, Gert said. Yeah, he chuckled. Did you see her face when she saw the boss hugging his girlfriend? She looked like she thought she owned him. Such a dumb girl. Jungkook's eyes narrowed as he listened, his heart sinking as the pieces began to fall in place. He turned on his heel and walked over to the birds, his expression darkening. What are you two talking about? He demanded, his voice low but firm. The guards froze, realizing they had been caught. Boss, he stuttered. We were just talking about this girl who showed up earlier. She claimed to be your girlfriend, but we saw her get all sad when you hugged Miss Nancy. We thought it was funny. Jungkook's anger flared. Who told you Nancy is my girlfriend? He asked, his voice icy. The guards exchanged nervous glances. Mom herself told us she's your girlfriend when we were checking before letting her inside the house. He finally said. Jungkook clenched his jaw, his fist tightening at his sides. Nancy, he muttered under his breath. He glared at the girls. He slapped both of them across the face, the sound echoing in the garage. Don't you dare assume things without knowing the truth, he snapped. You wait here, I will deal with you later. Leaving the girls stand and wrap their sore cheeks, Jungkook stormed off and got into his car. As he drove off, Jungkook grabbed his phone and started calling you, but each time the call went unanswered. He gritted his teeth in frustration, dialing your number again and again. Pick up one, please, he muttered, but you kept ignoring his calls. He sent text after text, his fingers moving rapidly over the screen. When it's not what you think, please talk to me. But the messages remained unread, his words seemingly lost in the void. You were sitting at a small, cozy table in a dimly lit bar, a bottle of soju in front of you. Your best friend Pluto sat across from you, listening intently as you poured out your heart in a drunken haste. How could he cheat on me, Pluto? You slurred, your eyes glossy from the alcohol and unshed tears. Pluto frowned, concern etched on her face. Are you sure, Ryan? Did you see it properly? Yeah, I saw it with my own eyes, you said, and your voice, a mix of anger and sadness. He was hugging her, and his skirts, they made fun of me. It was so embarrassing. How dared they insult me like that? Her expression darkened. How dared they insult my best friend? You're beautiful, Vine, more beautiful than anyone else. You smiled drunkenly at her compliment, a small giggle escaping your lips. Thanks, Pluto, that's why you are my only well-wisher. He took another swig of soju, then slammed the bottle down on the table. I have decided. I'm breaking up with Jungkook. I don't need this in my life. Just then, the door to the bar swung open, and Jungkook walked in, his eyes scanning the room until they landed on you. He looked both relieved and worried as he approached your table. Ryan, he called out, his voice gentle but firm. You squinted at him, your head tilting to the side. You look like my boyfriend. Are you tense? You asked, your words heavily slurred. Jungkook knelt beside you, trying to catch your unfocused gaze. Ryan, it's me. Let's go. I need to talk to you. You stared at him, your expression confused. So you're my real boyfriend? You asked, blinking rapidly. Yes, it's me, he nodded. Without missing a beat, you frowned and slurred. Well, I'm breaking up with you. Let's go, Pluto. Jungkook sighed, realizing you were too drunk to think straight. He turned to Pluto, who looked just as concerned as he was. Pluto, you stay here. He quickly picked you up and carried in his arms while you fight with him to stop it. Let me go, Jungkook, you mumbled, pushing at his chest with little strength. But Jungkook held you securely, cradling you against him as he carried you out of the bar. I'm not letting you go, Ryan, he murmured. Jungkook carried you carefully up the stairs to his bedroom as he brought you to his home, your head resting against his chest as you mumbled incoherently in your drunken state. As he entered the room, Nancy appeared at the doorway, her eyes narrowing when she saw you in his arms. Who is she? She demanded, her tone sharp. Since when did you start picking up roadside beggars? His eyes flared with anger, and he glared at her with an intensity that made her take a step back. Don't say one more word, Nancy, he warned, his voice cold and danger. You better shut your mouth. Her confidence faded, and she backed off, fear evident in her eyes. She watched as Jungkook gently laid you down on the bed, trying to make you comfortable despite your drunken attempts to push him away. Let go, you mumbled, weakly pushing at his chest, but your resistance was no match for Jungkook's patience. Just as he was about to adjust the pillows, you suddenly turned pale and vomited all over his shirt. Jungkook froze for a moment, but instead of getting upset, he calmly wiped your face with a cloth and changed your clothes into something more comfortable. Once you were settled, Jungkook sat by your side waiting for you to come to your senses. Hours passed and finally you began to stir. Your eyes fluttered open and you looked around the room, confusion clouding your mind. Where am I? You mumbled, trying to sit up. You're safe, he said softly. You're at my place. You immediately tried to get up, your voice trembling. I need to leave. Why wait? He called out, following you as you stumbled out of bed. Just listen to me. But you were too upset to listen. No, I want to go. Let me leave. You shouted, pushing him away. He sighed, knowing you wouldn't calm down unless he made you listen. He gently cubed your face, forcing you to look into his eyes. Wine, listen to me. He said firmly but gently. No one can separate us, okay? No one. You are struggling visible as you stared into his eyes, the sincerity in his voice calming you down. But what about that girl you hugged? You asked quietly, your voice coated with insecurity. Jungkook sighed, his gaze softening. Wait here. He stepped out for a moment and returned with Nancy. One, this is Nancy, he explained as Nancy stood awkwardly by the door. She is my best friend since childhood. She left for the USA 6 years ago and she just came back. She told the security guard that she is my girlfriend to prank them, but they misunderstood everything. He looked at her angrily where she nodded hesitantly. Yes, Wine. You let out a long sigh of relief, tears welling up in your eyes. I'm sorry, Jungkook, you whispered, your voice shaky. I really thought you were cheating on me. I misunderstood everything. He smiled gently, keeping your face in his hands once more. I could never do that, even in my dreams. I love you, Wine. You're the one who taught me the real meaning of love. How could I ever leave you? A small smile spread across your face and you leaned into his touch. I love you too, Jungkook. You whispered before hugging him tightly. He hugged you back, his heart swelling with feeling and love. After a moment, girls came there as he ordered them. Jungkook stood beside you, his hand protectively on your back. Now tell me, do we look like we are made for each other? We're sorry, ma'am. We didn't know. Please forgive us. It's okay. Thanks to you. I let go of my fears. Jazz made me know how much he loves me, he said, smiling at Jungkook, who shook his head in disbelief. Girls bowed and left from there where you were happy with Jungkook. Okay, Jungkook, I will leave. She quickly came out of his bedroom very confused. Jungkook excused himself and followed you. Nancy, she turned at him. I know with what intention you have come here. I should say, I'm sorry. You will not get it, but if you try to do anything harm to Wine, I have to forget about our friendship. Nancy left from there angrily with his warning where you heard him secretly and smiled about his protectiveness towards you. Thank you for watching.